Hello, everybody. It's Patrick Fransco. I'm here on a Monday, not at my typical time, though. I'm actually here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I had a scheduling conflict this morning. I could not get on at the normal 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I shifted it to 4 o'clock today to make sure I would still be able to get a Marketing Mondays in. So give me 1 second. I am going to ping in a couple of the other groups as I always do, and we will get going here. But I appreciate everybody being here. I know it's a little bit later in the day. This may actually work out better for some people than it does at the other time. So I'm hoping this actually catches some other people in a good spot. So I just have to get this done real quick. So I apologize. I always have to do this real quick just to get the live shared into the different groups. But it looks like we are almost there. So let me just do that real quick. It always takes longer when you have to do it, when people are watching. Good to see you, Tim. This should be, let me see something here real quick. There we go. I appreciate everybody tuning in that's going to tune in. And again, I apologize for the late difference with regard to the time we're going to do it today, because it was a last minute thing on my end. I just had to jump in a meeting. Okay, I've got it all shared in. So thank you guys for your patience while I did that. I've got some good questions that came in this week to do on the Marketing Mondays. But as always, if you guys go ahead and put your questions in the comments, I will see them right to the right of my screen as I'm looking here, and I can answer those for you guys and girls right on live on time. If I don't have any questions, I will resort to the ones that came in during the week, but I will always give a priority to the ones that came in live. So with that, again, it's Marketing Mondays number 67. Some of these, like I said, we try to curate the questions to make sure that we're always touching on new things that haven't been answered in past Marketing Mondays. But sometimes there's a little bit of an overlap. So if you feel like some of these you may have heard some or part of them before, that may be the case. We try to answer them fresh, though, because sometimes the answer even changes slightly depending on what's going on with Google or Facebook or a variety of different things. So we always try to make sure we answer them fresh. That being said, if you want to, I can put a link in. We are also taking all the past Marketing Mondays and breaking up all the questions into individual questions and putting them on YouTube. So if you want to go through and peruse and just see if I've already answered a question that you may have, you can check that out. It's going to be on my Patrick Fransco YouTube channel, and you can go on there, and there is already a lot of videos loaded up, but they're all going to be titled based on the questions, so that you can go in and just, partake of 5-minute segments answering very specific questions you may have. So with that being said, we're going to dive right in. We try to keep these things to a half an hour so we don't take up too much of your time. It's a little bit different in the afternoon. You're seeing the sunlight coming in from my windows. I apologize for that, but hopefully it's not going to take away from you guys being able to see everything. So the first question I have is, how do I create good, unique content when I've already posted a lot? I feel like I'm repeating myself. It's a great question. Obviously, that's something that we deal with. Even like I said, we were just talking 1 second ago about some of these videos that we're doing, maybe answering questions that have been potentially asked in the past, or at least overlapped a little bit in the past. So, this is obviously a client saying, how do they continue to create content when they've already done a lot of content and it starts to feel like they're repeating? One of the best ways I think you can do that is to base content off of projects and or things that you're currently doing. That way, there's probably not going to be a lot of things that are exactly the same. One of the things we do for a lot of our clients is what we call project portfolios. Like a project they're working on, we will summarize that as a piece of content in their blog section or their latest news section. That allows us to talk about their product and or service. It also allows us to integrate in a city and state that they may have done that product or service in. So it gives us a little bit of SEO with regard to that particular state versus maybe another state or another city, let's say. So it gives us a little bit of localized SEO on that post as well. And it always ensures that there's something a little bit different. There may be similarities between the type of product or service they're doing, but there's always going to be something slightly different about the post just because it's a different project. So we could talk about different things in the project. So one of the ways you can get out of the rut of feeling like you're doing the same project over and over again is to try to create content that's based on the work that you're doing. Take some pictures of some of the work you're doing and create a piece of content based on that work. There's always something new you can say about that, or there should be something new you can say, a unique challenge that you guys faced, or a unique product that you guys utilized, or something of that nature. So now I talk a little bit later. I think there's a question coming up that's going to talk about this. I always do feel like there's a benefit to doing a lot of content. However, if you don't feel like you have anything worthwhile to say, if you feel like you can't create a piece of good content, I would guard against just putting out content that you don't even feel like is good or that you can be proud of just in order to create a piece of content. You always want things that you put out to be something that you can be proud of and stand behind and feel good about. So if you don't feel like you have something like that for this week, don't get so caught up with, I have to put something out this week to such a degree that you'll put out something that you don't even like just to, put something out. So again, make sure that you're creating content that you're going to be happy and proud about. This is going to be content if people review your page that they may see 6 months after you post it or something like that. So I know Jordan just mentioned, I saw a comment, some of the best content is content I didn't think would even be seen reach one person. That's certainly true, Jordan. I'm not saying, it must have been a good piece of content or it was done in such a way that it caught somebody's attention. Obviously, you have to feel good about it. More than anything, it has to be something you feel like truly represents your company, things like that. And if it reaches a large number of people or reaches a small number of people, that's secondary in some ways. Obviously, you always want it to reach a lot of people, but you don't want to put out content you don't feel good about just because you feel like you need to put a post out. So that's what I'm getting at with that. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully with regard to this question, how to create more content when you've already posted a lot, I've given you some ideas as far as trying to base the content off something that's going on currently. Sometimes you could even base it off of current events. Like we're heading into winter now in a lot of the parts of the country. So you can create content that's based on something that your product or service uniquely does in a wintertime setting, or why somebody may want to consider your product or service going into the winter. Or, you could do that seasonal. You could do it, around holidays. You could do it around major events, whether it's a sporting event or anything like that. So I think you have to look for ways that you could create unique content. And there are plenty of ways you could create unique content. I would agree with what I think this poster was asking initially, though, is you don't want to just continue to create content that's the same thing over and over again. Your audience is going to begin to tune you out because they're going to be like, I've already read this basic thing 500 times already. I don't want to read it a 501st time. So I do agree with their what I think the underlying basis of this question was, which is the need to create unique content. You don't want to just create the same thing over and over and over again. With that being said, I don't see any questions that have come in on this side, but again, if you have any questions or clarifications, throw them in the comments. I'll be sure to get to them. Thank you, Jordan, for saying that thing about your content. I think it added some clarity to what we were talking about. Tim actually just asked a question. When running a Facebook ad, is it best when you want to run, say, another pic or video, just change the pic or video in an ad running, or make another ad? I would like to make another post to see what worked better. So, Tim, if you just want to change the pic or the video, you could create a secondary ad set in Ads Manager. You could go in and create a duplicate of your existing ad, with the only difference being that you change out the picture or the video that you're using. That allows you to use the same budget, and it allows those two things to run side by side, and you'll start to see potentially which one of those is performing best, which one's getting the most clicks, things like that. The other thing you could do, which I think you could go all the way to the campaign level, and you could just duplicate the entire ad, and you could just do, by duplicating the entire ad, you could put a separate budget to it. You could do it to compare. Say you're running $15 a day on the initial ad. You could run a completely separate ad, $15 a day, and just compare and contrast how those are working. Now, that's assuming you're using the same audience. I would maybe go more towards adding a secondary ad set with the same budget, the same audience, and see which one the audience is responding to. That might be a little bit better. So one of the things Eric says here is you should always create multiple ads and split test everything. I agree that split testing is good. How you do the split testing is important, though. I like to do, like I said, if you want to do split testing, you can do, or what some people call A/B testing, which is basically running the same content and just changing one of the variables. Sometimes you can run that variable. You could change the actual copy, the writing, or you could change the graphic or the picture or the video. Again, if you're using Ads Manager, you can make that at the ad set level, not at the campaign level. If you run the campaign level, you're creating two separate ads. You're going to have to select an audience for the second campaign. And a lot of times you might want to use the same audience. Now you've literally created a situation where both your ads are maybe even competing against each other in the marketplace, assuming you're going after the same thing. So that's why I like to go with adding a secondary option at the ad set level versus creating a secondary campaign. I love the idea, Tim, of running duplicates like that, because it does give you an idea. Sometimes you go into it and you think this is a great picture, it's going to really do well, or this is a great piece of copy, it's going to do really well, and it doesn't do as well. And maybe it's not that the piece of content isn't great. Maybe it's just that the picture didn't resonate with people, or the copy was written in such a way that it didn't grab people's attention. So sometimes the slightest tweak to the copy and or the image or the video could be enough to make something that's not working really well begin to work really well. And that's where A/B testing or split testing works really well. I think it's a strategy a lot of people should employ, especially if they run an ad that they think should be getting a lot more traction and it's not. They may want to try to change one or two things up and see if that actually you always want to change one variable at a time, though, because if you go in and you change the picture and the copy, then you don't know which one of those things may have been the result of the additional traction. So try to change one at a time, keeping everything else constant, and that's going to give you a good comparison of what's working and what's not. So hopefully that answers your question, Tim. If you need any clarification, let me know. Good to see you in here, Billy. I'm not sure about my deep voice. I don't think it sounds any different to me, but maybe it does online. So anyway, we'll move on to the next question if I don't see any others pop up. This question says, I know I need to be active online, but I don't have the time to make, let me make sure I'm reading this right. I know I need to be active online, but I don't have time to make multiple things work. Any advice? Okay, so I'm taking this as them basically saying they know that there's an important, there's an importance in being active online, being active on social media, things like that, but they don't have the time to do it, or maybe they don't have the time to do multiple. So maybe they're considering, hey, I'm being told I need to be on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google Business, all these things, and I don't have time to do all those things. What do I do if I don't have time? And they're asking for advice. So I'm going to approach it like that so that you know how to approach it. First things first, and we talked about this a little bit last week, you have to identify who your core audience is, who you're trying to reach. Depending on who your core audience is, they may or may not be hanging out on one of those particular platforms more than another. So if you're trying to really reach somebody B2B and you're trying to reach professionals like architects or something like that, LinkedIn may be where you want to spend time, and you may want to put your time into actually reaching people in LinkedIn that are architects or things like that, versus say Instagram or something like that. So the first thing you need to define is who you're trying to reach, because depending on who you're trying to reach, you may not need to do all the platforms. You may only need to do the one that makes the most sense. That being said, once you identify who your core audience is, and I apologize, guys, for the glare. Like I said, I usually don't do Marketing Mondays at this time, but I'm in the spot where I'm getting a lot of glare through this window. So once you identify who you're trying to reach and where they're hanging out, then it becomes an issue of, focusing on that platform and not necessarily trying to do everything. I would rather see you. I know there's differences of opinion with regard to this, even amongst some of the people I consider mentors and friends. Like Gary Vaynerchuk might say, you need to do all the platforms. You need to be doing them all. And he does that. You could see that in his situation. He definitely goes after all the different platforms. But everybody can't do that, or they don't have the budget, or they don't have maybe the ability to hire somebody to do it. So I'm going to tell you my advice would be, maybe contrary to his, that I would rather see you figure out the platform that's most valuable to you and do that platform really well, as opposed to trying to do 4 different platforms and doing them all mediocre. Now, again, you really need to define who your core audience you're trying to reach is and what you're trying to accomplish with the posts or the ads or whatever you're trying to do. And that's going to define where you need to spend the time and the effort. So when you say you need to be active, but you don't have time to do multiple things, I would say you really need to spend a little bit of time up front figuring out where you need to be active, and then be active strategically in those places. And if you have extra time, sure, taking a post that goes out to LinkedIn and sharing it on a Facebook page, or sharing it in Google Business, or sharing it on Instagram in a way that's innovative on Instagram or TikTok, is always, the more you can do, the better. I do agree with Gary Vaynerchuk on that. In a perfect world, if you could do it all, because you never know what might resonate with somebody. But if you're forced to focus on doing 1 or 2 instead of the 4, I'd say spend a little bit of time up front figuring out where you're going to get the most benefit and do those really well, as opposed to trying to do all 4 of them and doing them all kind of not so great. So hopefully that helps on that one. If anybody's got any questions, I think Eric has a clarifying thing on the last question. Nick said, welcome back. Thank you, Nick. It's good to be back. So let me see. Eric says, I also noticed in my own experience, be careful with your targeting. If you target window tint, you'll hit a lot of window tinters. If you go after make and model vehicles, yeah, I agree. Targeting is critical. I mean, you have to spend the time to define your audience and do it in such a way that you can really understand. I always tell people, try to put yourself in the mindset of somebody that is sitting down in front of a computer, and if they were going to start typing into the Google search bar, what would they type? A lot of times what we might think are the important keywords or key phrases or things like that are not things that the average person you're trying to sell to or reach with your ads is typing into Google. So you really have to try to put yourself in their seat and try to determine what's going to work based on what they may type in. So you really have to get yourself out of the way you think about it and get yourself into the way your potential customers think about it. So with that, let me see. I got a couple more questions here. This is a really good one. Hopefully you guys will enjoy this one. AdWords or SEO? Where should I spend my money? So here's the thing. AdWords or SEO, they're kind of 2 different things. You're essentially, with both of them, you're trying to come up high in a search result. When somebody types into Google or any search engine, you're trying to come up at the top of those search results so that you can get the click and they can reach out to you instead of somebody else. So there's 2 different ways you can do that. One would be by spending money if it's with Google, with AdWords, which is basically going to be you essentially creating an ad, creating a bunch of keywords or key phrases you want to rank for, and then spending the money so that when somebody searches for those things, that your ad comes up. That's one way to reach people in search results. The other way is via SEO, on your website and other things you can do so that when somebody searches for certain things, that your website populates organically, or what we would call free. You're not paying for it. It's just coming up because Google recognizes by crawling your website that it's a relevant result and populates it for that particular search. So this question is asking, which one of those two, where should you spend your money? And, obviously, if you're getting professional SEO done, you're going to have to spend money to potentially get that done, unless you want to spend the time to understand how to do that on the back of your website and on a couple of offsite places to get good SEO. AdWords is something, again, you could either pay somebody to build AdWords or you could try to run it yourself. I look at this as like being one of those things. If you want to look at it, we run AdWords for a lot of our clients. I forget the exact number, but we manage hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Google AdWords spend. We also do a lot of SEO for our clients. So I'm not saying one of these is good and the other one's bad. The way to think about it, though, is AdWords is something that only works while you're paying for it. If you're paying for AdWords, the minute you stop spending money on AdWords, the results you were getting disappear. So it's only while you're paying. You're paying basically to show up. The minute you stop paying, you stop showing up. SEO is an investment you're making in your website and the content that you create and things like that, such that if that content is out there, your website can continue to populate for search results, even if you're not paying. Say you've paid for SEO, that SEO has been done, and now your website's coming up good for search results. You could not be paying for any additional SEO and still continue to come up. So think about it like Google AdWords is something that it definitely works, and it works immediately. If it's built properly, you're going to start coming up. The minute your ads are approved, you're going to start coming up for search results. But also the minute you're not spending money anymore, your ads will disappear. SEO is going to take longer to come up. You're going to have to make the changes to SEO and allow Google's algorithm or any search engine's algorithm to start to take effect to populate your results higher. But once you're there, you're essentially, to a certain degree, you're there, and other companies can come and do more SEO and start knocking you down again, but you don't have to pay ongoing to get good results. So AdWords gets you immediate results. You're going to have to continue to pay to get results. SEO doesn't get you as quick of results, but once it's done, it's going to be something that you've invested in that's going to continue to pay benefits. Now, in a perfect world, you might consider doing both of those, because think about it this way. If you search for something, you're going to see the paid results at the top, and then you're going to see the organic results slightly below those. It would only make sense that if you show up in both of those results, and obviously through Google Business, you can even maybe show up in the map listings. If you can show up 3 times at the top half of page 1, it gives you that much more of an opportunity to get the click. So, I don't look at it as an either or. You really have to look at it as what makes the most sense for you, where you potentially have the budget to spend, how much you have the budget to spend. If you want to have multiple results at the top of page 1, maybe both AdWords and SEO make sense for you. So I hope the way I answered that makes sense, because again, it's not an either or. I don't want somebody to come away from it saying, oh, I should just buy AdWords, or, oh, I should just invest in SEO. It's something that I think both of them make sense in different scenarios, and you really have to figure out what's best for you, what your budget will allow, and go from there. Tim actually asked a question here. It says, I have been not answering potential spam calls and have had and some have been customers. I have Verizon, so not sure if that's a problem or not. Do you think it's doing that somehow because of them clicking from Google Maps? So Tim, if you're Google Maps, Google Business Listing, whatever, the number that's shown in there is going to ring through to the number that you list in there. Now, a lot of times, if you turn on call tracking in Google, which is one of the options you can call to track the numbers, Google essentially sets up a a situation where the call actually comes from a Google number so that Google can track, okay, this person hit the call now button, but we're actually going to funnel it through the Google system so that Google can track the call and see who's actually called. That may come through as a number you're not familiar with, and it may look like a spam call, and that may be where you're getting caught up with some customers coming in from that. So I'm assuming, again, based on that in your Google business thing, you have it set up to track calls, and that's why you're getting some come in that way. You could turn off the call tracking, and then the numbers would come in more direct from the consumer if you want to go that way, or you could leave it on and just be aware that some of those calls are going to come in. And, whether it goes to voicemail or not, hopefully you're checking your voicemail regularly so you don't miss a lot of those opportunities. But my guess is it's all based on whether you have your account set up for call tracking or not. If it is, you're probably going to see some calls come in from some weird numbers. I don't think it has anything to do with Verizon. So hopefully that helps. We are down to about 5 minutes left in Marketing Mondays. So I'm going to try to give you good question here. Hold on. Let me see what I got. Here we go. We were just talking about Google Business. So I'm going to go ahead and answer this. This question was best things I can do to maximize my Google page impact. So Google Business used to be called Google My Business, things like that. A lot of people, I've stressed on here a lot that that's something you need to be paying attention to because it's how you show up at Google Maps. But, as far as best things to do to maximize it, I would say make sure your profile is filled out completely. You have areas in there to add the products you offer. You have areas in there to also define the services you offer. You could put in descriptions. You could put backlinks to your website to take people directly to those products and service pages. Have all of that filled out. Add pictures for each of your products or services. You want to make sure that all your hours are on there. Everything you can fill out that you have the ability to fill out on Google Business is going to help you. So I would say completely fill out your Google Business profile. That's important. Make sure your logo's in there, a cover photo, a picture of your business from the outside. It gives you a lot of options to do. Everything you could do is going to be beneficial. We also talked at length in Marketing Mondays before about trying to procure Google reviews. There's a lot of different ways to get Google reviews, asking for them, sending out follow-up emails, asking for them. I think Google reviews are the most beneficial out of all the different reviews you can get because it's tied to Google and it's going to help your search results versus Facebook or Yelp or things like that. So I happen to believe Google reviews are the most beneficial reviews. So if you're going to ask for one, I would ask for a Google review. Another thing people overlook that could help your impact on Google is now you're getting those reviews. That's terrific. But make sure you reply to those reviews. When somebody takes a minute to leave you a review and says, make sure you go in there, like their reply, and comment back to say, hey, thank you, Tim, for leaving your review. We appreciate your feedback. And we're so happy that you chose us to for your business. Whatever you want to say. It doesn't have to be a novel. It doesn't have to be a bunch of different questions. Thank the person for leaving a review. Thank them for the business, the kind words, whatever you want to say. But again, Google doesn't walk us step by step through what's beneficial and what's not. But I will tell you, when you take the time to reply to the reviews that are coming in, it seems to have an impact. When you fully fill out your profile, it seems to have an impact. When you add pictures, like when you have your logo, when you have your cover photo, when you add pictures regularly that are optimized, we've talked about that in other Marketing Mondays that you can look up how to optimize images. That has an impact. So when you talk about the best things you can do to maximize your Google Business page impact, the best thing I could do is say, take advantage of everything Google is giving you to fill out there. Make sure you've got photos where you're supposed to have photos. Make sure you filled out your products and services area. Make sure you filled out your About Us. Make sure you're asking for reviews. Make sure you're replying to those reviews. If it's a bad review, you may want to reply in a very positive way to so somebody sees that negative review, they see that you responded to that person in a positive way versus like clapping back at them and arguing with them. So my best advice for Google Business is make sure you're taking advantage of all the different things Google gives you. They'll walk you through the process to completely fill out your profile. Make sure you're doing that. And I think you're going to see you get more impact from that Google Business page. And it also is going to really help you. It's secondary from I look at it as SEO the same way I look at SEO on the website, because it's going to dictate where you show up in the map listings, the way that your website's going to dictate where you show up in the organic listings. So I think both those things are important. Nobody that has a business should be ignoring either the SEO on their website or their Google Business profile. I think you do that at your own detriment. But those are the two things I think you really need to pay attention to. And Google Business profile is pretty simple. Like I said, just make sure you're fully taking advantage of all the things Google allows you to do on that profile. And I think you're going to see some positive benefits. With that, we are right up against the time. Again, today was a little bit different time than it normally is because I had a scheduling conflict, but I hope that you guys enjoyed it. This is also going to be available afterwards, so you can listen if you weren't able to tune in live. And then also, please remember, I'm going to put my link in for my YouTube channel, because we're taking all of these we're taking all of these Marketing Mondays. We're breaking them up into the individual questions, and we're loading all those questions onto my YouTube channel so that you can go there and have individual questions answered that you may have. You could just, sift through the videos there to see what questions have been asked and answered, and just watch those. And they're going to be like 4 to 5, 6 minutes long instead of watching a whole half hour, but it allows you to go through and see if there's any questions you may have and find out if I've already answered them. So with that, I'm going to let you go. Hopefully you guys are off to a good start. I'm in the afternoon on Monday. So hopefully you guys are already off to a good start with a great Monday so far, and you're going to have a terrific week. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully this was informative, entertaining, and helped you guys out with some questions you have about marketing. With that, thanks. I'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye.